Welcome.
Good evening. We are the Center for Spiritual Living of Palm Beaches, and I'm Reverend Judith Churchman, and this is Reverend Dr. Bob Luckin. We are the co-pastors, and this evening's program is being brought to you by our spiritual mind practitioners, our prayer practitioners. And the topic this evening is very timely since this is just shortly before Christmas. And we are talking about Jesus and how he was the great example. And so I will, without further ado, introduce our first speaker, Dr. Pamela Gray.
Hey, everyone. I'm delighted to be here tonight to help kick off our prayer summit. And of course, a prayer summit is all about reaching some new height of thought or idea by sharing ourselves as examples of how to use prayer in our lives, not only for our own benefit, but for the benefit of others. And I'm joined tonight by Aggie Hill, also one of our Palm Beach practitioners, who will be sharing her own life experiences and the riches of spiritual mind treatment and how that has been life-changing for her. And then we'll conclude by opening up the program to our fellow practitioners. I know Joe Seiler is on tonight with us, and any other practitioners to share their insights and experience as well, so that you'll have a totally enriched evening with us. And we're very excited to have you join us and have the opportunity to share something that we have found to be useful in our own lives. So I'm recommending the topic of Jesus, the great example, and not the great exception, because when I first heard that, it made so much sense to me that Jesus brought us the most perfect example of why prayer works. He gave us many demonstrations that showed us when we have a relationship with God, we invite God's presence into our lives, both through prayer and just the growth of our own personal spiritual consciousness, that we can do wonderful things for ourselves and for others. Now, we're a philosophy called Science of Mind. And Science of Mind really is more of a philosophy. It's really not a dogma in the traditional church belief. And the whole foundation of Science of Mind is this concept of prayer. And it has been said among our spiritual leaders, the founder of which was Dr. Ernest Holmes, that spiritual mind treatment, which is what we do, or some call it affirmative prayer in our centers around the world, that our 5-step method of spiritual mind treatment was the closest thing that has yet been verbalized about the way Jesus prayed. And therefore, we believe that the miraculous things that happen in our lives are perhaps the way each of us individualize miracles. Now, this idea of Jesus as the great example and not the great exception, I have to ask you, for all of you who are listening, to just suspend for a few minutes any doubt about the incredulity of this idea that Jesus is our example, not the exception, as he is most frequently celebrated, especially this time of year. And the reason why I'm asking you to suspend any doubt about this is, let me tell you a few of our concepts or beliefs that each of us tonight feel very strongly about. The first is God individualizes itself through each one of us. So if you think about God's qualities being individualized through each of us, why would we want to put brakes on that? Why would we want to doubt or take a lesser position that we cannot fulfill those qualities in our own lives. We also have been given this beautiful mind to think with, which allows us to individualize or personalize God in our lives. And that's what makes us so unique, is I get to personalize my self-expression, just as Aggie Hill gets to personalize hers, as you'll see in just a few minutes. I also believe that each of us have been born for our own time and our own challenges. In other words, I'm more perfectly equipped to live in this time than my great-grandparents would have been if they were thrown into this time and space. I think they were perfectly equipped in their time, just like I am. But also Jesus was perfectly equipped to succeed and excel in his own lifetime. So I love the idea that I have all the qualities I need to succeed right where I am. And like Jesus, we're each given unique ideas. And these unique ideas solve our problems. They remove us out of lesser circumstances. You see, God, through prayer, doesn't give us things as the answer to our prayer. God gives us ideas, which we're meant to individually use to improve our lives, to find a greater pathway to happiness and joy, and to fulfill our heart's desires. And in the science of mind philosophy, we also believe as practitioners, or spiritual coaches, as oftentimes we're called, that we can do these types of blessings for other individuals. In other words, I can pray for you and your well-being, and do that as a practitioner. In fact, we're all practitioners of sorts, if you think about it. What we do and think for each other, and we hope raise the consciousness of the entire planet as we raise and improve our consciousness. And each of us are meant to use these God-given ideas and use it for our benefit and everyone else's benefit. And why shouldn't we contemplate God equipping each one of us with all of these wonderful qualities? You see, he equipped Jesus with all of these wonderful qualities, and he created his own miracles. I like to think of it as creating the miraculous more than emphasizing the word miracles. So if he could fulfill a glorious destiny, why couldn't we each individualize our own? And you see, using our philosophy and using a form of prayer, which is affirmative and positive, you should be uplifted and can be uplifted to have a better result. And ultimately, that's the beauty of a great idea, is God gives us those ideas to produce a better result that we're seeking. Didn't Jesus say, "Greater works than these shall ye do in my name"? You see, why would he leave us or demonstrate just as the great exception? Why would God's own most beautiful qualities be just given to one person? And you see, we think that every person has the capacity to express God's greater qualities. Now, I can say for myself that as I learned spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, that I began to understand and appreciate how to attract a better idea into my life. And then I had all the resources at my disposal to actually realize that idea and to put it into effect so that I could have a better experience in life. You see, I think God right now is perfectly expressing itself through me and through you. So why shouldn't we want to fully cooperate with God if God is willing to express itself not just to us, but through us, and do it every day, every hour, and every moment that we're alive. Now, I guess the bigger question is, how do we do this with any confidence, right? It all boils down to our sense of confidence. Can I do this? Can I express myself more fully? Can I get the results I'm looking for? And we think there's one primary answer to building that confidence, and that's affirmative prayer. That's the whole basis of really our philosophy. We call it spiritual mind treatment. And prayer is all about courting the presence of God. And I have to say that over the many years that I've been studying this philosophy, taking classes, being a licensed practitioner, courting this presence of God was not always an easy task for me. I would a lot of times let the outside world dominate. I wouldn't always take the time to be quiet and still and be in a good place to invite this presence. And I think for me now, after nearly 3 decades of studying science of mind, that I'm just now becoming much more seasoned, if you will, at courting the presence of God. I really feel God's presence. And before I finish any prayer, I have to really wait till that presence is fully evident in my experience. And I can't think it, I have to feel it. And it's this beautiful combination of what's in my heart and what's in my mind. And they come together in this beautiful melding of expression, which is where I place my focus. It's where I ask God for those greater ideas. Again, let me remind you, God doesn't give us things. God gives us ideas. And it's our job. I know this is probably one of the hardest things to accept. God gives us those ideas for us to act on. We're the ones that must be responsive. And as a wonderful spiritual leader, Dr. George Tupper, taught me that intelligence can only be seen through our responsiveness. So our best use of our mind is when we take action. Our best use of answering God's prayers is when we take action and follow through. Because all the resources that are essential and necessary for the fulfillment of that idea are given to us as well. Now, I have to be the first to admit, the appearance of things does not always tell me I'm getting all the resources I need. But I have to show faith in the process, a belief that the outcome will not only be as good as I hope, but oftentimes is better. Because at the end of the day, why would I have more faith in my own human mind coming up with the answers than I would believe that God could give me? You see, my own human mind is very limited, but by allowing an open mind, an open awareness, being what's open at the top, as Ernest Holmes says, that's when all those beautiful ideas can come in and shower me with inspiration. So by allowing God to work through us, we have to have an open mind. We have to be willing to receive God's greater ideas. We have to be open at the top. And in the process, I believe that's how we spiritually evolve. That's how we grow, is through this oneness that we not only court with God, but we actually have lived experience with God in our life. And therein lies, really, for me as a practitioner, when I'm called upon to offer prayer service to other people, I have to have that conviction that the presence of God is within me and that I'm speaking my word for that person. And even though they may doubt or feel fear or loss or sometimes lack self-worth, I myself have to be the nearest that I can get to God's presence and that feeling in order to invite only the best for that person to come into their lives. And that is the power of prayer, is to invite that perfect idea, that perfect self-expression to come to the forefront of all activity, and do that walking in faith. That the results that I'm getting in my life will be not only better than I thought, but I'm here to be receptive to those results and not turn away from what God is offering. Now, I'd like to invite Aggie Hill, my colleague in this spiritual prayer work, to share about her personal story and how this has brought in her life many of the rewards that keep her in walking in faith and in the presence of God. And you're sure to enjoy her story and her insights.
Mute myself. Thank you, Pamela. That was beautiful. It was very reassuring. You know, as many times as you study and you read and you learn, you always hear something different. You go a little deeper, you contemplate it in a fresher way. And that's what you were talking about. And so this is our prayer summit, and we're here with a purpose. We're here to share our experiences with prayer. We're here to talk about how prayer, I will talk about how prayer, spiritual mind treatment, specific kind of prayer from Science of Mind, has changed my life. I prayed a lot when I was younger, but in a different way. We were begging God to do something for us. And so I just want to go through a quick little journey, because I was once young. I was once a teenager and then a young adult. And I was filled with zest for life. But for some reason, and I don't really know all the reasons, but I had a lot of self-doubts, a lot of insecurities, and even some self-loathing. And I always had this fear. It was like a lingering, that something bad was going to happen. And I didn't have the resources to handle it. I didn't feel I was being, conditioned or taught how to handle things like that. And then there was some trauma in my young adult life. And then the tragic early death of my mother, which really threw me for a loop. So it was pretty scary. I was kind of still in my traditional Catholic upbringing, but it wasn't working for me. So maybe some of you that are listening, hopefully, can relate to some of these stories. So I turned to friends, I turned to family, and they were very helpful, and they offered comfort and love, but it wasn't enough to take away the pain. The pain was still there. Then I had a really, it was kind of fun. I turned to psychics, and we, my girlfriends and I would go to all different psychics, and we had a grand old time, but it really didn't do the trick. I was still scared. I was still in pain. And then one time in the morning and in the afternoon, two different friends told me about a metaphysical church. At that time, it was Unity. I didn't know anything about metaphysics. I didn't know anything about Unity. I wasn't really, maybe I'll go. I was still searching. And they had this beautiful minister, who I think now is in her late 90s. I heard she's still with us. God bless her. Her name was Reverend Pat. And she got up there and she could sing as well. And she just spoke about love and how we're all love, and we're here to receive all the good of the universe, and we're here to be blessed. And nobody mentioned sin and penance and contrition and all that other scary stuff and I thought, well, this is for me. So it really, I just, even from a very short time there, I just felt peace come over me. And I was just learning to see myself and others in a different way. And that, I think, is the key to this too, how we see each other. And then I was introduced to Science of Mind, and I fell in love all over again. Then I started taking classes and going to the services, and then I became a spiritual practitioner. In fact, Joe Sullivan and I would have teaching circles here, study circles. So changes don't happen overnight. If any of you are listening out there, if any of you have some pain and you're insecure or whatever, but as you start to use this teaching, you will see a gradual but continual change. You will feel more at peace with yourself. You'll feel more centered, more love, more abundance, and more creative endeavors. And they're all there for us. But as Pamela said, we have to be receptive. We have to be open. We have to be ready with open arms, open hands. So, and as I said, I don't want to go into this, but I felt literally that I was tied up in knots. And the more I pulled, the tighter they became. So I was raised in the Catholic Church, and I had some wonderful teachers, some wonderful nuns, but there was a lot of fear-based teaching there. There was, but as a student of Science of Mind, you will learn about your true nature, and there's no fear there. I was not a sinner, but a wonderful, powerful woman who was anointed for success and happiness. There's nothing that I had to earn. I was anointed. And then, Pamela did talk about Jesus as the, not just the example, not the exception. And he said something, and I may misquote it a little bit. I think she addressed it too, Pamela. He said all the wonderful things that Jesus did in healing and multiplying the loaves and fishes and blessing people. And he said, these things you can do and even greater. So what is it? And this is where our teaching comes in, because it teaches us that we can do these things when we're in the right state, when we open ourselves up, and when we pray. See, and this is it. We used to pray like begging, pleading, I'm not worthy. Oh, this is not home. But now we pray and we believe that we already have what we are asking for. Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. So it's an acceptance of your good before you even have it. So, and this is where you will see and learn more as you study Science of Mind. But you don't have to go into great depth. If you use the treatments, it will work. Because there's a universal law which surrounds all of us, and there's no exceptions here, and it is creative and it responds to us. So before we must plant a seed before we can reap a harvest. So we must believe that our prayers will be answered. That's the key here. If we doubt it and we say, well, I don't know, maybe, do I deserve it? How is it going to show up? It's not going to work. We must believe that our prayers will be answered. And this is something that Oesha, or Jesus, taught us, that God, and this is what Pamela referenced, wills us to have everything. God is there, his love is giving unconditionally. And we were discussing the parable of the prodigal son. And when I learned that as a youngster in Catholic school, I didn't like that parable. I thought, why did the bratty brother come back and get all the good stuff when he didn't earn it? But of course, when I studied it metaphysically and saw that God is always there for us, he's never left us, and we can do all kinds of crazy stuff and we can come home. We can always come home to spirit. And then that's one of the most beautiful parables in the Bible, how God accepts us and is waiting. See, God is waiting on us, but we have to be ready for that. So, so you must be receptive and open. So what is treatment? And if you experience it, you just have to just accept it. But it is a statement into the law. There is this law. We state our desires, whatever that is, whether it's greater health, more love in our life, more money, a house, whatever it is, with a complete faith that the law will work for us. And that's what I want to emphasize, the complete faith that the law will work for us. The more power we give to this thought, the more completely we believe that this thought has power, the more power it will have. So it's up to us. God is there, he's giving it to us, but it's up to us to give it the power, the momentum, the receptivity. So is this all, happen beautifully all the time? No, there are still moments and days when I feel untethered from my source, but I don't linger in that state. And I always like to quote one of my ministers from Long Island, Reverend Angie, and she would say, you can certainly get down in the dumps, but just don't stay there and redecorate. So you can feel bad some days, but get yourself up again. So what do? Simple, but powerful. Simple, but challenging at times because we have to be disciplined. And sometimes I know I'm not always disciplined. Know that God is right where you are. Know that life is for you and not against you. And this one I love too, because sometimes I can get myself confused. Spirit knows the answer to every problem, but we must turn it over to spirit. Sometimes we try to think, oh, no. And you follow these laws, you will meet with success. So what can you say? You could say that which I am seeking is seeking me. That which belongs to me will come to me. And this is beautiful, I think. The kingdom of God is within me and around me. So you can think of any desire that you would like, anything that you want in your life, and say, and it is done unto me. We always say, and so it is. And then you release it. You don't keep looking. It's like when you plant a seed, you don't keep looking to see if it's growing, the flower is coming up or the vegetable, but it will manifest in your life. The law is perfect and is manifesting in my life. So say that, because there's just the one mind, God's mind, and we are all of us are connected, are one with this mind of God. So this has just opened me up, this teaching, with these treatments. And I do them weekly with a friend, and I do them daily with myself. So I've explored things that when I was younger, I absolutely had no confidence in doing. I do some artistic work, painting, I do some acting, and I'm very politically active. And I'm just more confident now. And the other thing that's interesting is I seem to have more time. The more I do, the more time I have. And I never used to have any time for anything. I was always like, oh, I don't have time. That changes too. So on the last note, I would just say, it's a wonderful life, like that movie. I just turned 81. Can't believe that. And my husband is 91. But the good part is we're both looking forward to more adventures. We're not looking forward to a rocking chair. We don't have any rocking chairs, but they're not allowed in the house. So we have recliners though. Those are the new rocking chairs. So I really love this teaching. And if you start to use it, and we invite you to call us, we will love to give you a spiritual mind treatment anytime you want it. Because you will start to see changes in your life. You will see more love, more peace, more joy, more just harmony in your life. And the other part, and I think Pamela, you mentioned that too, we're affecting other people. They don't even know we're affecting them, but it happens to the people around us, people that, and maybe to the greater world, because every time we send out love and acceptance and harmony, it creates ripples and it spreads. So we have on our website, cslpalmbeaches.org, the names of the practitioners, and you can call any one of us, and we'd be glad to set up a time to speak with you and to do a spiritual mind treatment, which we call prayer. And so that's my words for the evening. I was very happy to share them with you. And of course, what happens is when you do this prayer summit, you have to read a little, write a little, and then you go deeper into your own spiritual nature. You're always learning. I learned more stuff this afternoon, last week when I wrote it. So it's really a powerful teaching tool for me. I've as we said, Pamela and I were talking about evolving. being open and letting go of things. And that's all part of this process, which will happen when you receive or give a spiritual mind treatment. So now, if any of the other practitioners or anybody else that's on Zoom here would like to share anything at all, their experiences with prayer, or have a question, or just want to tell us about how prayer has helped them, I will turn it over. We'll turn it back to Judith and Bob. And thank you for this time to share my thoughts on this a beautiful subject, because it truly is beautiful. Thank you. Yes, Joe?
Thank you so much, Aggie and Pamela, for the beautiful presentation this evening. I was reminded about how the thinking changed, my thinking changed when I came into religious science. I realized over time that old viewpoint where prayer, to me or to most people I knew, you had to accept that it would be answered if you were in favor. If you were in favor, you had to be in favor of the great I am in order to have your prayers answered. And the more you're in favor, then you will get your prayers answered. But that's not how it works. That's not at all how it works, because you were born in favor.
Right.
We are born in favor. And, we just, the more solid our beliefs become, they don't stay as beliefs, because as you see more and more, they evolve to the knowledge. You don't have a belief in it, you have a knowing of it. And that is how and I know all of you, approach the affirmative prayers now. We do not believe they are done. We know it is done. Whether we believe it or not, it is. So that was very important to me.
Thank you, Joe. That's beautiful and very powerful. And that's exactly how it works. It does. It just becomes part of who we are. We just accept it. Anybody else, Pamela?
I was thinking about, I think I learned that I had to use willpower to get things I wanted in life.
Yeah.
And that use of willpower, while it gave me extra momentum to persist, it also caused negative impacts to my health. And created a great deal of unnecessary stress in my life. Life can be stressful enough, but willpower is like trying to force things, almost coerce things to happen. And I think somehow, I guess I thought, if I could coerce people into doing things or giving me things, that's how it worked. Now, I don't believe that at all now. I think that was not a good use of my gifts and talents. And it was stressful on me and probably stressful on relationships with people. And now, before I undertake something ambitious, I do my spiritual mind treatment, not just to prepare to have that conversation with God, but it prepares me physically, mentally, emotionally, to be in a more receptive place and to be gentler with myself. Because I don't think we have to put huge amounts of effort in pleading with God, which is kind of the way I was brought up too. And I've seen people over the years who, if they, just show they're needy enough, then they're more deserving. And I think that is a terrible misuse of our gifts and talents, to appeal to God that way as well. So I love the whole idea that prayer is a kinder, gentler way to communicate. It takes the pressure off of us, makes life less stressful, and gives us a much more enjoyable journey. You know, for a person with your accomplishments, Aggie, you seem happy and joyful, a kind of person I'd like to be around more, because I know you, like me and like Joe and Reverend Judith and Bob, are not here to fight with the world. We're here to cooperate with God and allow God to reveal something wonderful in our lives. And that's a pretty wonderful place to be, in not only in my own mind, but in my own heart and soul.
Indeed. I'd like to add that I'd like to speak to the people who don't believe or aren't sure that this could possibly work for them. The person who has a disease or has a condition that they're in, that they're just, they want to get better. And why would you go to a practitioner? And I'm reminded of a time when I got on a ferry boat and I didn't know how to get across the river or the bay. I didn't know how to steer the boat. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I bought the ticket. In essence, I went to the practitioner, and the practitioner was the captain. And I said, I'm willing to believe that if the captain knows how to get across this body of water, then I could get across it. And when you go to a practitioner, you believe that although you may not know how to do it, the practitioner has in mind the destination and is convinced that it will work, and you can travel across that body of water without having to worry that it will fail. And I think that's a very important piece, because when we're at our worst, we often can't seem to muster that faith and that belief that we can make it, but we can connect with somebody who can believe it for us, somebody who's been across the bay, somebody who's seen the other side. And this is so important, because why we have practitioners is not so that we can talk about what we've accomplished, but that we can take what we know as a captain of our ship and say, welcome aboard. You're welcome to travel with us. And this is a journey that we've made many, many times. Just relax and enjoy it.
Right.
And when I was on that boat, I looked across, I said, I can't even see the other side. And the captain said, it's okay, I can see it. I'll see it for you. And we want to do that if we can for each other. And, re-emphasizing what Pamela and Agnes have both said, and Joe as well. If you can see it in your mind, you can say it, give it your word. You can feel it in your heart. It's real for you. And when it's real for you, you've opened up the channel, you've turned on the motor, you've begun to propel the boat. And if in the process you have doubts, there's something very, very important in this whole equation. If you're the captain of the ship, and in a moment you lose faith, and you take your foot off the accelerator, or you stop pushing the boat, you know what will happen? The boat will continue to move. The boat will have created a wake, and that wake will push you, and the boat will continue for some distance. So you can say, yes, I believe, and oh, I'm not so sure. Yes, I believe, but I'm not so sure. Once you've created that destination in mind, once you feel it and know it, you can change your mind a bunch of times, but you'll continue to move. And if you're working with a practitioner, they'll help you steer. They'll help you move in that direction. And this is really, really important stuff. And every one of us is going to have battles that we don't know how to fight, and we're not sure we can win. And what we need to know is that there's a spirit army behind us, supporting us and encouraging us every step of the way.
Right. I don't see it done today, but boy, when I started in the mid-70s, I called my minister all the time. Anytime I was scared, I called him for spiritual mind treatment. And man, I knew as soon as I did it, I could release it. It was done. And just miracles. They were apparent miracles. They seemed like miracles. They were really just a natural unfolding of the law, which says that it takes what you give it and it molds it and returns it to you. So whether that's you yourself doing the prayer or a practitioner who knows how to do it, does it for you. I just wanted to say a few more things about Jesus as the great example. I think it was always his intention to be the example. He never said in any of the Bible that has him saying things. He never said, I am the only Son of God. And when he died, nobody was calling him the only Son of God. And this happened years after he had passed. As a matter of fact, none of the Gospels were even written until 40 years after he died. And it was like 40, 50, 70 years the Gospels were written after he died. And even the Gospels don't say he's the only Son of God. When they have him speaking, he says, when he does a miracle, he says, it is the Father within who doeth the works. Well, we all have the Father within. And he never said, I'm the only Son of God. He would say things like it's been mentioned when the disciples, he said, greater things than these shall ye do. And he was talking to his disciples, but we know he was really talking to all of us.
We're all disciples.
When he first gathered his disciples from the fishermen, he said, follow me and I will make you fishers of men. Meaning he was going to teach us the way. He was the great example, not the great exception. He said that, I think I already said, it is the Father within that doeth the works. But it's our Father too. He wasn't saying I'm the only one that has God as my Father. You know, so, and those things were decided years and even centuries after Jesus died to make him the only Son of God. But he never said that, and I'm sure never believed that. And I believe he's still with us in spirit, guiding and helping us today. But he also says, greater things than these shall ye do. And we do when we know how. And we love teaching. And I would like to say that in our website, where you can find these wonderful practitioners who would just love to do this work for you, is a button at the top that says spiritual coaching. So it means if you need a little help with any matters, you click on that button and all the pictures and contact information for our practitioners are there. And so we urge you to take advantage of it. As you're celebrating this birth of Jesus, which is also not the real birth. We found out recently that God's going back to Horus, the Egyptian god, was born December 25th. And then some of the Greek gods, and then one of the Roman gods, and Mithra, which was a religion of the Babylonian region, were all born December 25th. So in the process of this myth making, somebody decided this is because it's close to the winter solstice. So that was a time of going from darkness to light. So they just decided this is a good birthday for a god. And so we have no idea when he was born, but it's fine to celebrate it on this day. And that's what we do.
Well, I think the mistake we often make is, or we don't make, but that people can make, is that they take the Bible, first off, as having been written by God and to be taken literally. And if you think it was written by God, you have to look at the history of the Bible to understand that that's not possible. And that it's not entirely accurate. There's stories that contradict each other. It's a wonderful teaching manual. It's a way to look at history and understand the amazing people that were alive and the things that they did and what we can learn from. But to take it literally, that's troublesome.
As a matter of fact, there's a great scholar of the Bible whose name,
Spong?
Bishop Spong. He said anyone who takes the Bible literally can't have read it. They cannot have read it all because it's just too contradictory. And he loved the Bible, but he saw them as teaching stories as they are. And back to the Bible, the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, those were not written by persons named Matthew or Mark. At that time, people never took credit for their writing, and they came from schools, the Matthias school and the school of Luke, the school of, and so, they were not written by anybody who ever knew Jesus, and they were written years after he died. So they're wonderful stories, and I'm sure many of them are true. and I'm sure some of them are not. And so we just have to take the pearls of wisdom and not take it literally. And you got me so excited about this topic, I'll probably talk more about it Sunday.
Well, thank you, Reverend Bob and Reverend Judith, for this whole program of a spiritual summit to heighten the importance and value of prayer in not just our lives, but in the lives of every person who this program reaches. And we hope it reaches far and wide. And Aggie, it's been wonderful working with you and Joe and our other practitioners throughout North America who are part of our wonderful center.
So thank you all for coming and joining the summit, and hopefully we may hear from some of you. We would love to share this teaching with you in any way we can.
And Merry Christmas to
Yeah,
all.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Good night. Thank you.
Good night now.
Good night. Have a safe trip, Bob and Judith.
Thank you.
Thank